You're finally at that hot new spot, the one your friends keep raving about, sitting across from your date. It's going
Another round?
really well. And that dish you've been dying to try, oh, it's headed your way. You can smell it, hear it sizzling fresh off that skillet as it comes closer, closer, and served. Go ahead, enjoy. After your phone sneaks a bite first. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it. Your plans? Today it's dinner with the parents at your spot.
We gotta come back here.
Now, their spot. Or you're on the edge of your seat at the game.
Come on, just one time.
And it's the one. Or maybe you're catching the next flight to...
Now boarding flight 1850.
Oh, that's you. The choice is yours. And when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
There's never been a better time to find out why BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Download the BetMGM app and place a $10 moneyline wager on any NBA playoff game. If either team hits a three-pointer in the game, you'll win $200 in free bets, regardless of your wager's outcome. Just use code LIBERTY200 when you make your first bet. Sign up now and discover BetMGM's daily promotions, boosted odds specials, and more. Download the app or go to BetMGM.com and use code LIBERTY200 to win $200 if either team hits a three in any NBA playoff game. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years of age or older to wager. Pennsylvania only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, help is available. Call 1-800-GAMBLER in partnership with Hollywood Casino Morgantown.
Hey, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, comedian Laura House talks about how she met her mother.
I'm adopted. I've been adopted all my life. My brother is also adopted. We knew we were adopted. But when I turned 18, I said, I want to find my birth mother. So I get on 23andMe, nothing, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And it's just a normal evening with my trumpet player fiance, and I check my email, and it says, you have a new DNA relative, and I roll my eyes, and I click on it, and Christine, the message said, I just got my DNA results, and it looks like I'm your half-brother. I lost it.
Today on the show, comedian Laura House from the new podcast Tiny Victories shares a story about how she found her mother. Stay close.
Hey, it's Laura House, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a new fan of the show or a longtime listener, welcome to Storyworthy. We have a new president-elect, as I know you all know, and I just couldn't be happier, and it's going to be really hard to not have that come through, since this is the first time I've talked to my audience, since the election. So I can't not but smile. Whatever happens on today's show, I'm going to be smiling the whole way through. And I'm here today with Laura House. Hi, Laura.
Hello. We just found out in our real time. And yeah, it's not something you can just overlook and be like, well, we'll set that aside. There's no containment for it.
Yeah, there really isn't, because it's just complete elation and it's such
relief. Joy, yes.
All of it.
All the good words.
Yeah, I also think about everybody on his team. It's not just about Joe Biden, but it's about him bringing in Cory Booker and bringing in Elizabeth Warren and bringing in all these intelligent people that haven't had a voice either.
I teared up when you said Elizabeth Warren.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just so thrilled that today is happening at all, and that I'm thrilled that you're here as well, Laura, and you bring forth the topic, How I Met My Mother.
Yes.
So I'm anxious to hear about this, but I did want to say that I hope you guys had a chance to listen last week to Sue Kalinsky. And Sue Kalinsky, who is a comedy writer and a comedian as well, she brought forth the topic, The Dog That Saved My Life, which was very sweet. And it kind of reminds me of your title a little bit, How I Met My Mother, The Dog That Saved My Life. But it was a really good story. And she's so flippin' smart anyway, Sue Kalinsky.
She's great.
A really bright girl. Yeah, bright woman. And we talked also a lot about the Osbournes and how that was kind of like one of the original reality shows. But did you know, Laura, they didn't have a script.
It didn't look like they had a script.
I know, but that's so different than the reality shows now.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, now it's fallen into you're this archetype and you behave this way, and sure. Yeah, much more coaching, I guess.
And there's a writer's room where they make the scenarios happen, you know? But back then, the Osbournes, it was like straight on a reality. And anyway, we talk a lot about that. So go back, you guys.
Neat.
Listen to Sue Kalinsky. She's a laugh and so, so bright. But like I said, today, Laura's story is How I Met My Mother. And, you know, I think I have probably more of a, more popular path of How I Met My Mother. You know, I came out of her vagina, you know, so that
And she was right there.
And she was there always, yes.
Yeah, and it was like, hello, nice to meet you. And then you both stayed.
That's right.
Yeah, I had a slightly different experience.
Well, I'm anxious to hear this, but I will say I'm the sixth child.
Oh,
and
so she wasn't even interested. She barely noticed.
Oh, I had to be on fire to get any notice, for sure.
She was like making eggs when you came out, and then was just like,
it's
whatever,
true.
where's the bacon?
That's exactly right. So that my dad would always tell this story that he was at work and my mom called and said, you know, Jack, my water broke and the neighbor's going to take me to the hospital. And my dad said, I'll meet you at the hospital. And my neighbor drove my mom to the hospital. And I was born within like 10 minutes. I just like flew out.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they took the baby away. And then they took me, I guess, wherever they take a baby. And my dad got there and he's like, you know, how are you feeling? Are you okay? And my mom's like, she's already in the nursery.
Oh, yeah, he couldn't even have.
Yeah.
Yeah, way to linger at that stoplight.
Yeah.
Jack.
And I was the fifth girl.
Oh,
and
wow.
I have one brother. And I have a feeling
one
my
boy.
dad was quite disappointed because obviously he wanted a boy. Obviously.
But you're such a tough girl, and you play
Yeah.
tennis. He has to take that as some consolation.
Yeah, I followed that in my dad's path. But I will say, in his entire life, Laura, he called me Christopher.
Yeah, okay, well.
So
Dads,
it's all
huh?
good. It's all good. But anyway, yeah, so I have a very traditional birthing process and a traditional mom, but you don't. So I'm anxious to hear about this, how I met my mother.
Yeah, I look forward to telling you all about it.
But before we get to your story, I wanted to talk about your new podcast that I'm very excited about. It's called Tiny Victories. And I was thinking about just the words Tiny Victories, and it's just such a sweet idea.
Oh.
Because you could tell me about it, but I mean, and I've heard there's already 2 episodes dropped in your trailer, and I listened to everything. But I want you to tell me more about it. But what I love about it is that is so true. We have to celebrate the smallest things, because otherwise everything gets too daunting, and it is a cumulative of a bunch of tiny victories that add up to something perhaps bigger.
Yeah, it is the idea of it's the brainchild of my co-host Annabelle Gurwitch, New York Times
Author Annabelle
best-selling
Gurwitch.
author.
She's stunning.
She's stunning. She's as beautiful as she is smart, which is very. And it is, that was her idea, was when they it pushes against go big or go home, of just like, no, you can go tiny. And she has felt so overwhelmed since that guy was in office. But it can happen just in life it can be too much to look for the big win. Oh, I ran a marathon. Oh, I got a raise or whatever. And sometimes we're looking to celebrate fleeting joys and sometimes minor accomplishments. Like, I tell a story about when I liked jazz, which for me, I never really liked jazz, but I fell in love with a jazz trumpet player, and I would go to concerts like, now I can see that they're good, but it just doesn't, I'm a Rick Springfield person really, so it just doesn't.
So
connect.
wait, so you fell in love with, this is crazy.
Is it?
You fell in love
I love the
with
man.
The horn player
Yeah, horn.
from Oingo Boingo.
Yeah, he's a world-class jazz musician, and yes, he in the reboot of Oingo Boingo, he's the trumpet player. Yes,
I think that's so exciting.
it's cool.
My ex-husband really loved jazz, but because it's actually kind of jazz is almost like a concept. Like it's much bigger than just like, oh, turn it on, turn it off.
Yeah.
Like it's bigger than that, and there's such an art to it. And I still don't fully appreciate it, but I understand the idea of everybody in the band does their own thing, and then they kind of do it in a round robin way.
Sometimes,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
They each play their own instrument in their own way, and they feed off each other, so that every performance is different.
Yeah, everyone is different. And I mean, I just have to liken it to like my deal with comedy. Like everybody likes comedy, but like I was obsessed with it and became a comedian. Like I do comedy in not an average way, you know. And so he's jazz and I love him, but I didn't totally get it. And then I had this concert experience when I was like, oh, I get it. Like I had a jazzgasm, we call it, in the world. That's a term I found as I was researching. So it is a thing, but I was like enlightened, eye open. So like that's a tiny victory. It's not like that helped mankind, but it's a thing that was like, oh, like I had a change.
But that's a pretty big thing in terms of that's like an epiphany.
I think it would be an epiphany if I now loved jazz and totally got it and I'm listening to Miles Davis, but it was kind of just that one time. It was kind of just that very specific moment.
Did you also have edibles that night?
No, I'm 14 years sober.
That is so awesome. But okay, so do you remember the song that was being played? Where were you in the audience and what was happening at the time?
I do. I know it was I don't know the song. The singer is Renee Marie, and she's an incredible live performer. And that was really what moved me was as she was singing, and it was a jazz festival in Palm Springs. But as she...
That sounds very cosmopolitan.
Listen,
I was at a jazz festival in Palm
I'm
Springs.
sitting in my dad's house in Grand Prairie, Texas, and it is not lost on me how fancy that sounds. It was a jazz festival in Palm Springs. Yes, absolutely. Like we might go to Catfish Sam's later. So yes, it does sound very, very fancy. Yeah, but when she sang, it was like, it was transcendental. It was like it was like the joy and pain of her own life was transferred into me and my feelings, mirroring my pain and joy in my whole life. And I was like, oh, is this jazz? Like, is this what, because
that's stunning.
That is how people listen, like their eyes roll back and everything. So
it's meditation in a way.
It is another plane of you're not worried about things. You are in that flow and that zone, similar to lots of things. The zone of exercise and that bliss of meditation. Yeah. It was this.
It's like a runner's high.
Yeah, it was like this bliss state of, and like communing with this human and her son. And so that was that's a tiny victory.
Yeah, I bet your husband Brian was so happy.
He was, but he's also really like he's like, you don't have to. He doesn't need me to love jazz. He knows that's his. He decided at 10 to be a professional trumpet player, so he's used to being on the outside of general culture.
Wow, that's so interesting. Has he ever played for you like a really romantic trumpet song in the bedroom or somewhere where it's just like really sweet, or does it always come out like woo, woo? No.
Trumpet is a little challenging to get very sweet and bedroomy sound, but I will say in the before times when we all went to restaurants, he had a band, a quartet, and they played at Perch every Tuesday. Perch in downtown LA, which is also, this will sound very, it's a rooftop hotel. Nice. It's like one of the top 10 most Instagrammed hotel views.
Cool.
not even a hotel. It's a rooftop restaurant. And
cool.
So his quartet played there, and I did go see him, and he did sing like a song about Laura to me. And yeah, so yes,
That's so sweet.
little bit
Was it a
sweet,
song he wrote or a song with Laura in the name?
I think it was like a standard song. I'd have to look it up, but it was
so sweet.
it
yeah.
was neat to be serenaded on a
There's
rooftop
something.
downtown.
There's something about a musician, man. They get you. But they get you
Yeah.
because they've got that. They're using the tool of music to come through, and you already love music.
Yeah, everybody.
So
Yeah, exactly.
if they're smart and funny, you're kind of going to be in.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, in him specifically, we really connected even when we were early dating on the idea of improv because it's the same concept for jazz and comedy. There's a structure that other people don't see in either of them. But like when you're doing improv and comedy, there's a structure to it, but the average audience member isn't thinking about it. And the same with jazz. Like there's a thing that they're doing, but to us it just seems like blah 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 blah. You just know it sounds amazing or doesn't. But
That's great. I never thought of that correlation. That's good.
So we think, and Bill Hicks, the comedian, famously said, "Comedy is jazz thinking." So we connect in this our love of our different crafts. We connect at the core of that. It's like the same thing.
Jeez, oh man, that's a huge victory right
It's
there.
yeah, no, that's a real love victory.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. I'm happy about that. That's
Yeah,
really great. Now,
thank
are you
And
married
he's
or not?
Very sweet. We are not yet married, no, but we have matching tattoos, which I feel is even more of a commitment.
You know what it is, and I have a tattoo that I regret. That's matching. Yeah, I know, and it's. I'm going to show it to you
Have
right
you
now.
changed
It's
it a little? Put a
basically-
little hat on it?
I forgot. I don't even have a shirt on.
What? Hello.
I thought I had my T-shirt on. I just have a hoodie on.
Fair,
But I'm going to show
fair.
you anyway. Okay, so here's the tattoo right there. Right, it's always in the same place.
it birds?
It's two ravens.
Oh,
you
got
know.
it. Yeah.
Ravens, Laura. They fly in pairs. They mate for life.
Oh, got it.
Unless one of those ravens decides that California is really not the place for them after all,
Wow.
and then that raven flies back to Colorado, and then I have two ravens forever. Anyway, good luck with the tattoos. Listen, I want to tell you a tiny little victory that I had.
yeah,
and not
please.
only did I have it, but I called it into your show.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know
yes,
how many,
yes, yes. Mhm.
you guys have like a hotline on Tiny Victories where people can call in and tell your own tiny victory.
Yeah, which we love.
And-
we love to hear people's tiny victories.
It's so fun because I now identify them because you guys identified them in the podcast, Tiny Victories. Now I identify them in my life every day.
Oh, that's awesome. That's Annabelle's dream. Like that's our
That's
dream
what it
is to
is.
have a community and to also where we share these and also that we're cultivating our minds to find these tiny victories to instead of like the negative, which we tend to focus on.
Right.
We
and
lean
so we're
into
going to
this.
get a community of people doing this
yeah.
so that it's more positive. And now Biden's in office. And, I think things can get a lot better and especially a lot better than they've been. And
Surely.
anyway, the other day, I had filled out, speaking of the Biden administration coming in, thank goodness, because I had to fill out a rental subsidy request because I'm in Los Angeles. It's very expensive
yeah.
and I cannot pay the full rent. I mean, forget it. And so I got that subsidy. So I'm really excited about it. So, but I got the subsidy. I'm not sure how much yet, but I had to give them 5 documents. And 4 of them I didn't have to print, but one of them I had to print because I had to sign it. There was no DocuSign
right,
or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God. And they tell me, you have 5 days to return this. And I'm on like the 3rd day. And so now I go to use the printer and it is not working. And printers,
yes.
you want to take a hammer and
Yes.
just slam the hammer through the thing. And I cannot get it to print. I cannot get it to print. And so, and this is like about getting money for rent.
Yeah.
So like, I really want this to happen. I need this document. I need, or I could go over to Staples, of course. But the point is I deleted my printer app.
Yes.
And I uploaded it again, and it fucking worked. And I like jumped through the roof. And I got that document printed, and I got the documents to the people, and hopefully I'll get some rent money.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, we were very excited about that one because we all it came through the emails, and then we all shot stories. I was like, it's a tiny tech victory. Like because you mostly don't need your printer to work because you're mostly not printing. But when you do need to print, you really need it. And when you're just like, is this not connected? And is that, and when you overcome it like that, it's truly elation when you're just like, I'm saved. I needed this stupid thing sitting in the corner so bad.
And it's also frustrating because I'm very computer savvy. I mean, I've had this podcast for over 10 years. I edit the whole show. I mean, I do everything. Clearly, I know my way around a computer, but not around a printer.
No, I agree.
Not that way.
I have to just always assume a printer won't work and then just be thrilled if it does. It is printers. I got an email like 2 weeks ago. My friend was like, hey, will you print this for me? We were meeting for dinner and he was like, do you mind? Can you print this for us? Our printer's down. Like the way in olden times you would borrow a cup of sugar from a neighbor. Right. It's like, could you print this for me? Because of course.
Yeah. I had that. We were going to Paul McCartney last summer, and it was like the night of the concert, and my boyfriend's like, can you print the tickets out? And I'm like, what do you think, I'm a wizard?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Maybe not.
I hope there's no red in the ticket because you just can't expect a printer to do colors.
Oh, yeah. I never go for color because what are you all, freaking millionaire?
Yeah,
I don't have that kind of money.
It's always like it uses it once and then it's like, we're low on red. And it's like, calm down, printer. Printers are real rascals.
It's just like the old photographs to film thing, right? So the film is cheap, printing is expensive.
Right.
It's that whole, anyway, oh my gosh.
No, I was very excited about your tiny victory.
Oh, thank you. All right, well, let's get over to your story. But before we do, I wanted to remind everybody that the Storyworthy Hour of Power is going strong every Sunday night at 6 p.m. I'm on my 26th show.
Amazing.
So that's a half a year. Yeah, every Sunday night I've been doing the Storyworthy Hour of Power, and I've been having 4 guests from the Storyworthy podcast join me, and it has been so fun. It's 5 stories total in 1 hour, and so it's just enough, and it's live, and it's happening, and it's just been a great thing. I'm so glad I started it, and the audiences get bigger and bigger, and I hope you'll come on, Laura, because it's really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's super fun. And then we're playing Story Smash in the after show, but starting in December, Story Smash is moving to Friday nights. So look for information about that, you guys, and you can always head over to storyworthypodcast.com for the latest information. All right, you guys, she's here right now. Laura House, you heard her. By the way, Laura, I love your website where you just write Laura, and then there's a little house.
Oh,
it's so cute.
Yep.
Laura House. Like, as you know, you guys, she's a comedian, and she's performed on HBO, Comedy Central, NBC, and she's the first female comic to perform on the first Native American stand-up show, FNX's First Nation Stand-Up. Now, Laura's personal essays have been published in 3 books, True Tales of Lust and Love, Comedy Film Nerds Guides to the Movies, and The 5,000 Stages of Grief. 5,000, that's funny. Your hit solo show was How to Hate Yourself, and you performed that many times at the Improv. Not the show, but then you would have different people on.
Yeah.
You know, different comedians talking about how they hate themselves,
I did kind of an offshoot of the show. It's sort of the root of a lot of comedy premises.
Yeah.
Is how I hate
love
myself.
It.
Yeah.
I love it. You also speak nationally, as you know, and you teach writing and meditation. And I am just super excited, like we were talking about your new podcast with author Annabelle Gurwitch called Tiny Victories. You can find that over at Apple Podcasts, you guys, or wherever you find your podcasts. And you can also find Laura at her website, laurahouse.com, and also on Twitter at I am Laura House. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Laura House.
Thanks for having me. So this happened to me a couple of years ago, and that how I met my mother. So we'll start with the beginning. I'm adopted. I've been adopted all my life. My brother is also adopted. We knew we were adopted. It was never hidden. It was not sprung on us one day. It was always like, you're adopted. Now, the weird thing about that was I learned around 10 years old, and I understood what adoption was. I understood that Babies come out of ladies. I knew that. And I knew that we had not directly come out of that some other lady made us and our parents went and got us somewhere. So I just pictured like a baby store. Like, and it was never weird to me because like we eat salad, but we don't grow lettuce. You go to the store and you get it. So it made as much sense to me as any. We have a sofa. We didn't make it. So I just got that concept. What I learned at 10 years old, which was traumatic, was that not everyone is adopted. Like I had a weird Handmaid's Tale, although I assume they enjoyed their job as much as anyone, that just there were ladies who made babies, just like there were farmers who grew vegetables. And there was a lady down the street breastfeeding. So she's got her baby breastfeeding and I'm like 10 and watching TV or whatever. She was like the neighbor had sons and this was one of the wives. And I think I just said like, oh, that's your baby? Like I had never seen a baby with its own mother. And I think I asked like, so you're keeping it? Like I understood, oh, she must be one of the ladies who had babies, but she's keeping her own baby seems so weird to me. And at like my 15th question, she was like, I think you need to talk to your mom. And my mom gave me a book and essentially that's when I learned like, oh, only some of us, like most ladies do keep their babies but just me and my brother Matt were adopted. And like nobody was at school yet. It was adopted. Mm-hmm.
So first of all, were you and Matt you were a true brother and sister from the same mom?
No, we're just from an adoption agency.
Interesting. Okay, because at first I was thinking that you were both adopted at the same time because of a family tragedy or something and you had to be taken away, the two of you.
No.
But you both were, I don't know how to say it, left at birth? Your parents...
We were both put up for adoption by whomever by our different mothers. And the way it works is... a couple goes to, it's actually very common, but a couple goes to an adoption agency, like my parents, and they're like, we want a baby boy. And they fill out all the forms and pay whatever you pay, I guess, and get interviewed. And, there's a whole vetting process. And then if they're approved, they're put on a list. And I just think of it as like a batter's list of like, oh, when the next boy comes up, that your name comes up, you get that boy. Like when the names match, like, oh, you're up now.
Wow.
We got a baby boy, it's yours. And then they also wanted a baby girl. And so when I came along and it was their turn, they got me. Anyway, I think it was almost an accident. When I was born, it turns out I was sick for a month. So I stayed with the social workers at the adoption agency. Wow. And I think I may have ended up going to different parents.
Wow.
Different parents than I was originally. So did an angel intervene? I don't know.
Wow.
But it's so weird to think of your own existence. And everybody has this version, but as an adopted person, it was like, if my parents hit different traffic on the way to signing up for me, I'd be with a different family. Do you know what I mean? Like, and any adult can, any birth, you can get weird like that. Like, oh, if we'd waited a month, it would have been different eggs. If we'd waited 5 minutes, it would have been different sperm. We would be different by, nanoseconds of change. But I just sometimes think that like I could have been with any other family easily. So essentially, I grew up like, I have a really nice family. Mom was a teacher. Dad worked at City Hall. Very stable and very what I would call, and often did, boring. Just as an adult, I say stable. As a kid, like I'm a little bit gregarious. And they're very quiet. And my dad is a hunter and my brother's a hunter. And I don't even like fresh air. I like air conditioning. Like they just like, I'm very different. And I'm a smartass. Like I just want to make fun of everything. And they take everything very literally. There's no, they don't really use language to, my dad watched a lot of sitcoms and stuff, but he, they just aren't like goofs. And I'm like a giant goof. So I felt a lot like the Gonzo in my family. Like even when I saw Muppets from space, I started crying, and I was like 40. Because I was like, oh my God, that's exactly how I felt. Like, I'm very loved and taken care of, and like nobody gets me here. So it was sort of like at school where I had my personality and I was kind of quiet at home. Anyway, so I grew up and I'm just obsessed with finding my birth mother. I'm just fat, and I'm like, I kind of like dark hair and kind of a cute round face. So Smokey and the Bandit, I'm like, Sally Field, could she be my birth mother? Like, you're just kind of looking in the world, or like there was a teacher I really liked, and like, could she be my mom? Like, I just had I keep comparing this to so many things, but it like Truman Show. Like, I had my own self-reflective, is my mother a neighbor down the street and just nobody's telling me? Or so, and my brother never wondered one time, never asked. He has zero interest, which I just assume that's a lack of creativity. like how can you, what's the story? Why were we given up? What happened? So I looked a couple of times, like when it always kind of bothered my mom. My mom was so sweet, and my parents have passed now, but my mom was like, I could not love you more if you had come out of me. She was like, if I could make you come out of me, I would. Like, she just couldn't have children, you know, and she just wanted 8 kids and couldn't have them, and adopted us. And so it really hurt her feelings kind of when I mentioned it. So I tried to be sort of careful about it. But when I turned 18, I told her very calmly, I said, I want to find my birth mother. And my mom, much to my surprise, said, oh, wait a second. And she ran out of the room. And I was like, is she here? Like, it was the weirdest. She just goes, oh, hang on. And like, and I sat there frozen. Like, what's going to happen? And she came back with a file. And it was just a 1-page file in a sealed envelope. And she said, I just had this in case you ever asked. And it was just a 1-page height and weight of my mother, of her parents. She was studying music, it said. She was like 22, it said. Her mother had been a teacher. Her father had been a teacher. In my family that raised me, mom was a teacher. All the women were teachers. Mom wanted me to be a teacher. Anyway, it was like, I was like, wow, this runs deep. And I just had a little bit of like, oh, wow. And I was fascinated. And then this may sound weird to the non-adopteds, but I would get a little bit of information and kind of be fine for a while. So I didn't really pursue it again for like a few more years. And then I sent off to the adoption agency, and I got a redacted file. So they sent me a file with like the last names and the doctor's names are crossed out, in Sharpie, but it was a lot of information. It was interviews with my birth mother, like where she talked to the social worker, and she said things that, for one, I found out they had named me Ginger.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
So my
You could
my
have been
OG name is
Ginger House. Your middle name could have been Bread. What?
I could have been Gingerbread House. I mean, what a festive can you imagine how made fun of you would get? Or you'd be the coolest kid in school. One or the other.
Yeah, with the first name Fool. That'd be cool too.
Yes, so many fun. And so I later found out why, but so I found out there was an interview in this, so in this redacted file, there was an interview with my birth mother where she said, like, my whole life I've done what other people have told me to do, and I know this is the hard thing, but I think it's the right thing. I believe this is a special baby, and she needs to be born.
She wrote that?
Can you imagine?
That is so sweet.
It was so sweet, and the birth father was not was not at all interested. He just seemed like a guy who knocked her up in college, and you could kind of put the story together from, this redacted file. So even that, I just kind of, that was enough for a little bit. And I went on and lived my life and married and divorced and hit a bottom and got sober and did, like all life. And then, around 40, I was like, you know what? I was in a good place, and I was like, I'm ready to find the whole deal. And so also what I had done is, sorry to backtrack, you can put in a letter to the adoption registry that's like to your birth mother, that's like you can enter a letter, and if she also enters a letter, you'll be matched and you'll be told, wow, oh, you both want to meet each other. So I had put in a letter and had not gotten anything back, and I took that as a rejection. What I never wanted to do was bother her. Like, if she had me, maybe she never told anybody, maybe she's gone on to be a big politician and doesn't want, like, you're just making things up. So I put in the letter to meet her, and I never got a response. So I was like, oh, maybe she doesn't want to meet. So when I was 40, I did like the whole thing of, I was in a good place in my life, and you could pay a certain amount, and it's basically like, we'll find your birth mother, like through the adoption agency, we'll find your birth mother and like basically ask, do you want to meet? And so I did that, and like, you have to really psych yourself up for it, and you actually have to have psychological evaluation. Like, like there's counseling hours required for that, where they're like, hey, she might not like you. Like, you have, like, they have to like
prepare you,
like level.
Yeah.
Yes. Or she might want money from you, or she,
you just don't
they're like,
know
you
who
don't,
you're running into. You don't know.
100%. So, and I apologize, I feel like I'm dragging this out, but I just to set the scene of like how much I wanted to meet this person. And so I fill out the forms, I do the counseling, I do the whole thing, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm going to be connected with my birth mother. And a couple of months into it, I call the adoption agency to check in, and they said the same way if you'd call Spectrum about your cable account. They were like, oh, we found her, but she didn't respond, so we have to call off the search.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, well, it happens maybe a couple of times a year, but since she didn't respond, we can't keep asking her, so it's over. You can't, I was like, I can't meet my birth. No, you can't meet her. She didn't respond. I was devastated. It never occurred to me. I had thought like, oh, when I meet her, it could be good or bad, but it had never occurred to me like that they would just take that away from me and she just said it again, like, anyway, we had to close on your account, and then she offered up like, we can give you half your money back. And it's like, I mean, who doesn't want, $150, but it was, I was just like, yeah, I was devastated, and I really had to fully accept, like, you're never going to meet your birth mother.
Did you say anything to that person? Like I hear what you're saying, but you know who my birth mother is. And right now you won't tell me. Is that what you're saying? You said exactly what a friend of mine had said, which was, you were talking to a woman. She had the address right in front of her. And couldn't say like 1717, Smithville Road. Like it, yeah, I did write a letter later. I mean, I just got off the phone because I was devastated, but I did write later, like, this might be something you do all day, but the nature in which you told me I'm not allowed, especially since it's an adoption, since they ask for money twice a year, like, what I mean? They're always like, support our adoption agency. And I feel a little bit like, no. Yeah.
No. No, I'm not. I don't actually like how you do your business. And I think she caught from my reaction, she caught that her tone was maybe wrong. But anyway, so I gave up. I had to go, and one friend of mine said, well, maybe the answer is just not right now. And God bless her, because it kept me an inch from being completely leveled.
Wow.
Like it was like that. She gave me like this one little nugget of hope back of like, oh yeah, maybe things changed. I didn't know what. Well, it turns out 23andMe. So it turns out this website technology was super helpful. So what happened was, I get a job, and a friend of mine on the job said, "Oh, I just did 23andMe, and it's so interesting. You know, I learn all about my heritage, and there's a map that tells you how much African you are and how much, you know, English you are, and et cetera." And I was like, "Oh," and you can connect with DNA relatives. You know what 23andMe is. And I, on the surface level, I was like, "Oh, I want to know my heritage because I'm adopted. I don't know if cancer runs in the family. I don't know anything." But really, I was like, maybe I'll trick someone into letting me meet my birth mother. Like, maybe she's on there. Maybe there's an uncle. Maybe somebody didn't know there was a baby. Like, I genuinely, Christine, I was like, I can catfish my mom.
Wow. That is so.
With my own DNA.
Yeah. Wow.
So I get on 23andMe, nothing. Nothing. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. Nothing. I mean, cousins, if you've been on 23andMe, you get an email ping anytime it's like, you know, you've connected with a new DNA relative. And the first time you get the ping, you're like, oh my God, a DNA relative. It's always a sixth cousin.
Oh, wow. Funny.
It's useless. Yeah. And it's mostly people saying, hey, I'm trying to fill out my family tree. And I'm like, well, I can't help you. Like, I'm bitter. Yeah. So one day I'm sitting, this was 2 years ago in July, and it's just a normal evening with my trumpet player fiance, and I check my email and it says, you have a new DNA relative, and I roll my eyes and I click on it, and Christine, the message said, I just got my DNA results and it looks like I'm your half brother.
Wow.
I lost it. Like I'm losing it now. Like someone from, like, it was not possible. And someone from the abyss of not possible raised his hand and said, like, you belong to me. Like, I think I'm connected to you. So this one message set up a lot of questions. Like, did he know? Is it mother or father? Like, I could have a father who has 20 kids. I don't know. And it said, it said maternal haplogroup. So it was like maternal. We have the same mom. Now, does he know her? Are we all adopted? You know, is there a slew of us? Like, it just what's happening? And we exchanged phone numbers. And the other thing I had to do, I don't know if you've ever done online dating, but I didn't date him. But my point is, I don't know him. I don't know if he's a crazy meth head. I don't know if I never thought it was a scam, but I don't know if he's like a jerk or a good guy. I don't know anything about him, and he doesn't know anything about me. So I really, as we exchanged numbers and we texted and we talked, but you play it a little close to the vest in the beginning, the same way when you internet date. You're like, I think I like you. I want to like you. You could be crazy.
Yeah,
so
but did you guys exchange social media information and stuff? Because if you exchange that, I can kind of see quickly on Facebook if you're normal or not.
We did. Yeah. When I got his last name, I was just on Google for hours and trying to find pictures and I did. And so this is, I've asked him, he doesn't mind me saying his name is Jeremy. Uh-huh. And Jeremy is so.
And did you call yourself Ginger?
It's me, Ginger. I have this whole other
persona.
Thing now. Yeah. So I was. He was like, Ginger, finally.
Maybe you could put out a jazz album, and you could be called. They call me Ginger.
They call me Ginger. He was like, I'm the professor. Anyway, so. So as I mentioned, my family, not funny, sort of straight laced, very like Jeremy, Christine. I can't, he's funny. Like we're just texting and we're laughing and he's making jokes and I'm making jokes and I'm getting his little dry lines and he's getting my little
nice.
dry lines and I mean, we texted for 2 hours and I'm like, I can't stop crying. And Brian, my fiance, is crying because he knows what this means to me. And I'm just like, I'm looking up and he described that they had a really kind of a tough childhood, but my mystery woman, who is my birth mother, is just his mom. And there's another little brother. So I have two little
And
brothers.
where did they grow up?
They grew up in another town in Texas. I grew up in Dallas, and they were around a different Texas town. I feel weird saying it, but they were 3 hours away. And she had traveled up to Dallas for to have me. But when she traveled to Dallas to have me, that's when she met his dad. So and then because he's just a year younger than me. And they had gotten married and it didn't work out. And then there was another guy in another marriage and it didn't work out. So that she kept the two boys. Jeremy's black.
Oh, interesting.
Which, so it's just, he's my brother from the same mother. But I just loved him. And I never knew this was possible, but just finding out I was a big sister, I suddenly felt protective of him. And I was like, I owe you so many trips to the mall and, Christmas presents and trips to the mall. And he said, I owe you so many trying to hang out with you and your friends and I'm annoying you, but really just because I think you're cool and I look up to you.
Oh my God.
So what I really wanted to know through Jeremy was like all about my birth mother, right? For like a day. And then I just calmed down and I was like, just know this guy. Maybe she just doesn't want to meet you, so I just didn't press. I just didn't push it. And I just got to know Jeremy. And there was kind of a fun story of we're texting and I had seen a picture of him and knew he was black. I feel weird saying that like.
No, I know, but it is interesting just because.
It is
different
interesting
dads,
because I am not. Yeah. I am not. But I have a bit about being raised racist. And once he got my Google and information, he had found this bit about being raised. Ultimately, it's a happy ending of I am not racist, but I was raised in the South. The South will rise again, etc. But he was like, when he texted, he was like, how racist? Like we were going to exchange. I had already found pictures of him on Google, which I didn't mention because that's creepy. But we were going to exchange pictures for the first, again, like internet dating,
So
like,
sweet.
oh,
Yeah.
here's my picture. And he was like, before he sent me his picture, he was like, how racist? And I was like, oh my God, no, that's such a crazy. Then he sent his picture and then my phone died. Like my text jammed and I was so afraid it looked like he sent me his picture. And then I was like, ew.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh God.
So I called him and I was just like, oh my God, that was such a weird time for my phone to freeze. And he was just like, I can't believe I'm talking to you. He told me, he said, I've been looking for you. He said that his mom, our mom, told him and his brother when they were like in high school that there was a baby, that she had a daughter that she had given up for adoption. And, fun fact, he said, I was always afraid I would accidentally have sex with you.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I mean, she did tell them in high school. Maybe that's why she told them. Very weird. But he, in a very sweet way, he was like, so I always knew I had a sister out there and I've always been trying to find you. And when I met the little brother, I've met them all now. But when I met the little brother, Josh, he said, I was always afraid I would accidentally have sex with you. And I was like, this is just how guys think.
That is so
I
funny.
guess.
The brother thought the same thing. That's so weird.
Both of them, it was one of the first things they said to me. It was like as they were turning 15, 16, they were told they had a mysterious sister in the world.
That's so funny. And so tell me about your mom. What happened? When did you actually meet her?
About a week of texting with Jeremy, he sent me, and I had like, you know what? If I only meet Jeremy, it's enough. And he said, I have a surprise for you. And one was, we have a cousin in Los Angeles. She's good friends with J. Keith Van Stratton and other people who I actually know. Like not just a Facebook friend, but like genuinely.
Today.
And so
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so that's weird. And he goes, and mom is excited to meet you. And he texted me a phone number. And it was a Dallas area code is 972. My dad's phone number is 972. So is my brother. So is this one. She had been in Dallas, like a town over from my brother, for like 20 years of her working. Like, I could have run into her, as I thought so often as a kid. Like, we could have crossed paths at a gas station.
Sure.
It's absolutely possible. Same thing with Jeremy. Jeremy was like, oh, I lived in Houston in the 90s. I went to comedy clubs all the time. Like, we could have easily have crossed paths. So, anyway, I went home and I called her. I called my mother. We have almost the same name. My name is Laura. Her name is Lori. And she could not believe that. Like, my mom didn't know her name.
Yeah.
That's just what happened. There's a lot of Laurels and Lauras in that family. And somehow that happened. And I called her. And when I called her, I let out this yelp sound, not on the phone with her, but like after. I actually left a message. And then I just was like this, like, like this deep, like something swept under the rug of my soul sound release of like it's happened. Like, I just heard her voice, and we message all the time on Facebook. We talk all the time. We're like spiritual companions.
And she's only 22 years older than you.
She's, yeah. You know what? I had not actually, yes, she's, I had that number wrong. I think she's 20. Yeah, she's 20 years older than me.
That's nothing.
Yeah. It's nothing. It's
People
really,
have
we're basically.
siblings that are 20, you know what I mean?
It's so true. And so this was the real miracle. I mean, so many crazy things, but so 2 years ago, I had some stand-up gigs. So I met Jeremy in July. In August, I had a gig in Orlando. And I don't travel that much for comedy, but I happen to have a gig in Orlando. He lives in Florida. That's how I met Jeremy. He drove with his family 6 hours. And
to see you perform.
See me perform.
Talk about pressure.
And I fucking killed. And he, we went to lunch, and we kept it very, again, like online dating, we kept it very like we're not going, well, let's spend 5 days together. We were just like, well, I'll have lunch. And then
Well, that's mature. You're adults.
He's the greatest.
Aww.
Like, there's nothing crazy, weird, suspicious. Everything is, he's so great. And, so it was like lunch, and then we were like, do you want to get coffee or ice cream or something? And I took him to ice cream, just like I felt a big sister should. And then we all went to dinner together. And then they were like, we're just going to be boring and like play cards and watch TV at the hotel. I mean, if you want to come. And so, yes.
So fun.
And we just kept talking and seeing each other. I had a ticket to see my dad in Texas in September. And the rest of the family lives in Texas. So I came to see my dad. I asked him if it was okay. I drove down, and I met my not only is my biological mother alive, her mother is alive. I have a grandmother who's 102 years old. So I'm never going to die. I'm never going to die.
You have a 102-year-old grandmother.
Bama Ruth.
Bama?
Bama. Jeremy couldn't say grandma. He said Bama, so she's Bama.
Oh my gosh, my daughter's Bama. You know that. My
No.
daughter, Alabama. But we call her Bama.
Yeah,
We call her
Bama. Yeah,
Oh,
Bama.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This is like Bama with the W, like a real Texan.
Oh, I see.
Bama.
Oh, Bama. Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
got you.
Bama instead of grandma.
Oh, that's
yeah,
so
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Well, that is a wonderful story. Holy cow. Honestly, you got so lucky. I mean, just to have all those coincidences. Did you ever find out like why you got denied on her responding to that 23andMe or whoever said that she was probably your mom?
It's such a good question. She told me that she had put in a letter of in the adoption registry, and we were just never connected in that way. So that was one weird thing. And you know what? She has never directly answered. I have asked 3 times and then I stopped asking. I was like, did somebody knock on your door or at like with the adoption agency? And she just said, well, I guess it just wasn't time. Like she's sort of, she's lovely and open. And so I don't know what was going on in that moment. And I felt like I was primed to ask
fair
again.
enough.
So
everything happens the way it's supposed to.
and she's very spiritual and religious in a good way. She's very sweet about it. And so she's just like, I guess it just wasn't time. And here we are now.
Do
and
you
so
see yourself in your mom and your grandma?
Oh gosh. Yes. My grandmother, hopefully in spirit, my grandmother, my 102-year-old grandma, Ruth, Bama, captured a German soldier in World War II. She like went to college in Europe at that time, and then like found a German soldier kind of, I guess he was lost from his, and she marched him into, she was part of, I guess they called them like the Donut Girls or like a USO kind of a,
entertainment troupe.
Yeah, well, more like cheering up, giving snacks and stuff to soldiers, kind of a thing. But she found a German and turned him in.
That's awesome.
And she's in like the Library of Congress, like telling that story, like it's recorded. It's like part of.
That's pretty interesting.
She's really great, and but my mother, we're built alike, and so here's a big thing for me when I was little was. People in my family weren't smartasses like me. And then also, I never saw anyone who looked like me. I never met a person who I shared DNA with. Like Jeremy was the first. And we all have the same nose. Like I see it. Like I just wanted to like Lionel Richie hello video his face. Like you see it in there. And also she... there was one day, so I went down there for a couple days and we were going to go to dinner and we're just standing in the driveway and I looked down and we were exactly mirror image standing, same hand in same pocket, same halfway down, thumb hanging out, same other, we have the same like forearms and fingers and I've looked, whenever I'm around her, I just catch glimpses and like our heads will be cocked at exactly the same angle. It's for somebody who like never had a DNA connection with anyone I'd know. It's fascinating.
That is
to me
fascinating.
That, like,
yeah.
And when I first met her, she gave me a big hug and then she stepped back and she said, "You've grown."
Oh, what a sweet! That's so funny.
It's just a family of smartasses.
That is so sweet. What a funny thing. Oh, I like her.
Yeah.
Well,
I was just like, you're my family, like for like 100%, you're my family. So I didn't know that was hereditary, but
that's
apparently
beautiful. This is a great story. Boy, this is a huge victory for you. It really is.
Thank you.
I'm really happy for you. Very, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled about your new show with Annabelle Gurwitch, Tiny Victories. You guys can find it anywhere you listen to your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, you know all of them.
And it's a 15-minute podcast.
Yeah, that's fun too. You can just...
You get in, you feel good, you get out.
Exactly. No, I like that. Because in my queue, I've got about, I listen to about 40 shows, and it is hard.
We're all like months behind on we'd have to just listen nonstop for months.
Yeah, there's so much great podcasting out there. But this is fun since it's only a short little 15-minute little tidbit of encouragement. And if you guys have a tiny victory, you can also call and share it with the show. Just call 323-285-1675, and I'll put that in the show notes as well, so you guys can call and share your own tiny victory. And I hope we all have one or two a day. I mean, now that Biden is our president, now that we're moving into a brighter period.
Everything's coming up, tiny victories.
Things are coming up, honestly. I feel that way. And here's to a better 2021 for sure. All right, you guys, head over to Twitter and tell Laura you liked her story. You can find her over there at I am Laura House. And then, of course, follow me over there as well at Storyworthy. And again, for more information on the Storyworthy Hour of Power and Story Smash, head over to StoryworthyPodcast.com. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Laura House, thank you so much, friend. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great talking to you.
My name is Christine Blackburn saying, make it a Storyworthy week.
Now you can Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
What's that place you've always wanted to try? Well, you're there, sharing plates with...
Just one bite.
Or on second thought, maybe not sharing. It's that good. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Dad is the smartest guy you know, so give him a gift that's just as smart. Like a battery-powered smart doorbell from Google Nest that lets him see what's happening at his door and answer it from anywhere. The Google Nest Doorbell is now on special buy for only $129.99 and works on any home. Find the best and smartest gifts for Dad. Feels like Father's Day at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Offer valid through June 19, 2022 at participating U.S. stores and online. Limit 5 per customer.
Make this Christmas memorable with Goat Guns. Get the coolest miniature gun models for your collection. From historical classics to modern weapons, we have something for every firearm and hobby enthusiast. Surprise your loved ones with the gift of Goat Guns, the perfect blend of quality and detail. Shop now and spread the joy at goatguns.com.